Okay, I call this regular City Council meeting to order, and we have roll call, please.
Yes. Mayor Truitt.
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Longabaugh.
Here.
Councilmember Villanueva. Councilmember Hall. Here. Councilmember Alton.
Here.
Councilmember Williams. Thank you.
Thank you. If everybody would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this evening we'll begin our current events report with Councilman Villanueva.
Yes, just a couple of reports. I attended the kind of workshop we had at the Village 1 here at the library, and I was there early, so we had light turnout, but I assume that we had a little more of attendance, and it's a good workshop, and it's something that we need to look at, and I think it'll work very well. And also attended the meeting of Quality of Life Commission. There's certainly, they changed from the Revitalization Committee to Quality of Life, and some of the changes are that they'll be able to get involved in different aspects of the community, whether it's transportation, service, social services, or rehab. So, so we're well informed on that. And also, last night we interviewed the 5 members for the CDBG committee that's coming up, and John was head of that. So, looking forward to having the applicants presented here to council. That's it.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Real quick, went down to RPTA offices. We've skipped a couple meetings for the summer break, but I wanted to stay in touch with David Boggs and Brian Jungworth just to keep me up to speed on what's going on and where the, as you know, we've got a little bit of deficit in transportation there, so I wanted to keep up with where we're going with reductions in that. Also, I wanted everybody to realize that school's back in session, and you got a lot of little ones running around, a lot of high school kids driving around neighborhoods again, and just be extremely cautious out on our streets if you could. And really, that's it, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilman Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended a meeting with Parks and Rec Department and Economic Development and the Chamber, and we discussed, or they discussed, I listened, on how to best utilize and leverage the $15,000 that we got from the Easy Marketing Grant from the Arizona Office of Tourism. And I think we made some real progress in that meeting. Thanks, Mark, especially for all your contributions. I attended the Chamber Mixer fundraiser, which was very well attended. We had almost 300 people at that fundraiser, and they raised double the money that was raised last year. So it was very successful. Congratulations to Jeannie Blackman, and Cheryl Street from the Hampton Inn was very instrumental in putting that together. So congratulations. I also visited the Village 1 Plan Community Input Meeting, and the attendance was actually, well, let's see, the last Village 1 meeting, nobody showed up, and this time 24 people showed up. So it's a big improvement.
It is.
So the congratulations to Jeff Mihalik and his group from Community Development for the outreach that they did to get more people to come there, and also their presentation. I attended the Tourism Board meeting, and they were busy putting together their strategic plan. They're going to have 2 more strategic plan meetings, one in September, one October. I think they're going to be ready to present the strategic plan to us, the council, by January. That's what it looks like. I was a chaperone at the Teen Mixer on August 7th, and it was, boy, was that a fun deal. We had over 400 kids showed up that Teen Mixer at Parkview Elementary, and I would like to just take a moment, and there's a long list of people. I'm not going to read all the names, but there were 12 churches involved in this. It was the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, the Church of the Vine, the 14-6 Christian Church, the Hope Community Church of Nazarene, the Horizon Church, the Lifehouse Community Church, New Beginnings, the Palm Vista Baptist Church, Parkway Christian Church, the Radiant Church, the Seeds of Hope International Ministry, and the West Valley Bible Church. And Craig Scartozzi of the Police Department coordinated all this. He did a fabulous job. And the police chief was there as one of the chaperones, and he and I kept everybody straight, didn't we, Chief? Anyway, but SAD was also there. They had a table there. It was music, food, fun and games in the gym. There was basketball, dodgeball, all that. And we wrote about 100 letters to servicemen overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan. Anyway, it was just well put together, and I really thank Craig Scartozzi of the Police Department for all his effort in coordinating it. And I think it's going to be the first of many that we do here in the city. Maybe we can do them quarterly. I don't know, but I think we need to work on it. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Good report. Councilman Alton.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the Chamber of Commerce fundraising event, and it was well put together. It was a fun time for everyone involved. In fact, Fred Astaire ought to be worried about Skip Hall because I think he could put him to shame. I also had an opportunity to meet with Councilman Williams, myself, as well as Chamber of Commerce, city staff, city economic development people, to discuss the predicament that small businesses are in. And we brainstormed a lot. That was the first of probably many meetings, is try to, the city help out the small business community and provide education through possibly the community university and Maricopa County, and bringing forth some tools for the business owners to prevail upon. That could be mentoring. I would like to start something on a citywide program, bringing forth some previous business owners that could lend a hand on a free basis with other businesses that possibly are struggling, that they've been through it, they know how to survive it, and it's just it's encouraging as to the community what they can bring forward. And that's the end of my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome back to school, all the kids that are back in session. I got 2 kids now in elementary school, and one was excited, one wasn't. With school brings some traffic concerns in the community, so we had an extensive and comprehensive presentation today, and if any folks have those concerns, we have very bright people in our traffic engineering and PD department to address some of those issues, so please feel free to contact the city on that. Councilman Alton discussed the discussion we had. We addressed foreclosures about a year ago, and that's still an issue, and it will be an issue for some time until this economy come back. But another issue that a lot of folks are well aware of is doors closing on small businesses. And there's a lot of factors that are involved, and we had a great discussion, and I hope to move forward and to kind of reach out to some of those businesses and not rescue businesses, but provide tools and education to keep their heads afloat. Had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Alan Hoffman. He is the CEO and president of Ottawa University, and they are a partner with Rio Salado at our new community university. I'm very excited to get involved in the community, and I'm excited about that partnership. I've been having many discussions with Dr. Todd Aukus, who is with Rio Salado, who has been a key component in bringing community university here to the city, and I thank him for including me on some of the discussions that they've had as far as programming, dental assisting, health care, and a lot of opportunities from associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, and beyond that are going to be right here. So very excited about this. We haven't quite put our hands around what a community university is, but it's coming. It's coming, and it's going to be huge, I think. Want to thank Ashton Ranch PTA. They sat down and met with, I couldn't make the meeting, but I know I want to also thank Charles Raymer from our we call it sanitation department, but it's something else out here, right? Solid waste or something. Charles Raymer for meeting with them, and they're going to have a school-wide recycling program, and I hope that other elementary schools take their lead. Also, there are discussions on Ashton Ranch PTA starting all walk to school day. October 7th is National Walk to School Day. So hopefully some other schools will piggyback on that, and that will address some traffic concerns. So all about education. Last night was Beat the Heat, and just another opportunity for folks to get engaged with the city, with our police department. Had an opportunity to check out the venue again. I've been there a couple times. It was exciting. Very cool stuff, and that'll be a monthly event. A lot of cities do it. Got educated more and more on that type of event, and it's pretty cool. So if you're looking for something to do on a Wednesday night, check that out. I'll be at Over Coffee at 9 a.m. on Saturday. If you've had any concerns, questions, those are. I had to postpone it from last Saturday to this Saturday, but they'll continue second Saturday of every month. And that's all I had. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Longabaugh.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended recently the regular meeting of the Northwest Valley citizens up in Whitman. These are people that live in Whitman, Morristown, and Circle City, and we've been meeting with them off and on about monthly for a little over a year and a half. It originally started because of the BNSF rail yard concerns out there, but now I think we've reached a different plateau with them. We're now talking about a lot of other development issues out in that direction. Also, as already been mentioned by several of the councilmen, I also attended this surprise Chamber of Commerce fun evening. We won a Kachina doll in the auction, silent auction, but the most interesting thing is you got to be careful not to be too lucky. I also won a golf bag. Any of you who know me know that that was not a useful item to win, so we worked on that. We traded with some other people. I want to also say, like Roy did, we had a wonderful group of people in last night for interviews for the CDGB Commission. Skip and Roy and I did the interviews. We interviewed, I believe it was 11 people, and next council will present 5 people for appointment. The last thing I want to mention is the disappointment I feel about the announcement that the herd is going to leave Surprise. I think it's a loss to our community. It's a loss to the cultural area of this area in the west part of the valley. And I know that the West Valley Arts Museum is also in some trouble. I hope that the city can help them in some way. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And I've been busy also attending many of the meetings that the council has already spoken of, like the chamber mixer and so forth. Also met with Dysart School District and some staff and putting together an 8th grade field trip that we're going to invite all the 8th grade classes in the Surprise area to come into City Hall, talk about the pillars of character, as well as teach them about what we do here in City Hall and what our job functions are. Met with the Swedish consul this past week, and they're very excited about the possibilities of developing further relationship with City of Surprise. We're excited as well. Could be something good. City Manager Oliver and I attended a mayor's managers meeting in Glendale. There was some lively discussion, extensive discussion, and I heard that they kept discussing even after we left, so good for them. Hopefully they came up with some good conclusions. And as Councilman Williams mentioned, I also was at Beat the Heat last night at the Speed World drag strip, where our police officers interact with the teens of our community with a common ground of fast cars and motors and all that stuff, and it's just a great setting. So I got talked into racing my Cadillac on the strip against an Escalade. Okay. The only way I would do it is if the chief of police was sitting in my car with me, because I wasn't going to get that ticket. At any rate, Chief and I won. We bested them 2 out of 3. Good job, Chief. He was reading my TAC while I'm driving down the road, so it was good. And then got to actually with Lieutenant Randy Roddy. He and I got to drive a couple times, raced a couple of teams myself. The teens appreciate it. The police officers appreciate it. It's good, clean, healthy fun, and very relational building. So it's a good program. Really excited about that. I echo Councilman Longabow's sentiments about the Heard Museum and about the state of the arts currently in Surprise. I guarantee that as mayor, I will do everything possible to see what action can be taken by the city and still be good stewards of the public funds that were entrusted. And I think we can probably work some things out. So that will be an action item for another day. That concludes my report. I'll turn this over to City Manager.
Thank you. I have two items. One thing was in the issues update a week or two ago, but I think was missed by a lot of people. The City of Surprise is one of 37 finalists for a National League of Cities Award, which will be awarded at their meeting in October, November, for the multi-generational partnership with Rio and Interfaith and the City of Surprise. So I think that's a great opportunity. The National League of Cities represents most of the cities in the United States, so it's quite a large organization, and to be one of 37 finalists is just an honor in and of itself. The second thing that I have is that the City of Surprise is fortunate to have an employee dependent scholarship award program in place designated to assist the dependents of all full-time and part-time regular employees wishing to attend a post-secondary educational institution. The program was originally set up by Mayor Schaefer in 1999. She felt education was very important. This was her way of helping to encourage further education as well as helping to make it possible. The program was started through Mayor Schaefer's own funds as well as donation from the Surprise Sundancers, a nonprofit organization supporting youth programs. The funding has continued through a portion of revenues received from vending machine sales here within the City Hall complex. To apply for this scholarship, the applicants are required to submit an application along with their transcripts, write an essay describing their future career goals, and maintain a grade point average of 2.5 or higher. The applications are then reviewed by an independent committee. I would like to take this time to recognize the two individuals who've been selected to receive the scholarship award for 2009-2010 school year. If I can ask Weston Bowers and Jacob Peterson to come forward. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about my friend here. Jacob Peterson, the son of Kelly Peterson, who works in Community Recreation and Services Department. Jacob will be attending the Glendale Community College pursuing fire science in order to become a firefighter. So with that, I would like to congratulate you on your hard work and wish you the best.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And do we have Weston Bowers? Is she here? Guess not. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll move on to call the public. This is the point in the meeting when anybody from the public can come and speak to the council on any item that's not on the agenda for that evening. City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak?
No, we do not, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the call to the public and move on to consent agenda. Council, is there anybody that has a question, concern, or wants to speak on any of the consent items?
I do. Sorry.
I'd like.
You turn on your microphone. Mr. Longabaugh?
I want to ask a question on item number 2. Mr. Beckley, item 2 and number 3 as well have to do with Desert Oasis, are taking in some of the roadway.
Yes.
I've gotten a lot of questions from residents out there whether or not the street sweeping program will come out to their direction. Is this one of the reasons it hasn't been done out there up till now?
Yes,
The roads have
that's
not
the
been-
case. It's under the responsibility of the original contractor and developer. But once they are accepted, the street sweeping will be completed by the city.
So we'll take it over now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
I just have a point of clarification on item 14. It was either Richard or maybe the city manager or the city attorney. The denial of the CFD for Fulton Homes, because they filed bankruptcy, it's my understanding that this $25,000 is in accounts receivable now? Since we've had so many issues with accounts receivable as of late, is that going to be on accounts receivable?
Mayor and Council, for item number 14 for Fulton Homes, we have invoiced them, and the $25,000 is listed in accounts receivable right now. If the item is rejected tonight, if the Fulton Homes CFD is denied, that receivable will be eliminated because they will no longer owe that. Basically, their CFD will go away.
Okay, but we already expended, correct me if I'm wrong, we already expended $12,500 for administrative fees to a company, and our fees have come up to $12,000, so we've already spent that. Is that correct?
That is correct, but they had already put $25,000 on account with us.
Okay.
So basically, they've spent that $25,000. We've issued them a demand for another $25,000 to basically replenish the account, and they have not paid it to this point in time. So as per the agreement, we are asking you to deny.
But we've been made whole, correct?
We are whole at this
Thank you.
point. Yes.
Thank you. May I have an action on consent items 2 through 15?
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
I need 2 votes, please. I need Johnson and Hall.
Hold it down.
Thank you.
It's not taken.
It isn't.
Halls isn't taken.
I turned.
Did you get Halls, City Clerk?
Yes.
You did?
Let's see here.
Okay.
None of my votes. Sure.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Very much.
Sorry about that.
When you're ready, we'll move to item 16.
Mayor, I'd like to mention the persons here in attendance for the liquor license. Those items were approved, so you do not have to stay for the remainder of the meeting. Thank you. Sorry about that, Mayor. The next item is consideration and action on the design of original art to be located in the atrium lobby of City Hall.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to make a statement here, and that's due to the economy and the fact that we're in danger of losing both museums and Surprise. I'm going to recommend that we pay the artists for the work that they've done on this piece of art, and that we place the remaining funds, we set it aside for possible tenant improvements, providing we can come to some agreement with one of the museums and work something out to retain arts and culture in Surprise.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we have before us the chairperson of the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, the one who brought this item forward with recommendation to approve, Christy Miller.
Thank you. Due to the circumstances, I think that this is a great idea. We can't afford to lose art in the city, and I believe the artist as well as the board would completely understand this idea to put forth art and culture in the community instead of just one piece of art. So I think this is a great idea. I think the board will support it as well as the artist that is involved.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
we would expect that the staff would work with the artist to come to some amenable arrangement on payment. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Alton?
Mayor.
Thank you. What I heard was that we are going to postpone this. We're not going to do this. We're going to pay out the artist for her work. But at the same time, what I heard was in part of your motion was that we're going to retain that money for future TIs, tenant improvements, for
Possible partnerships that may come in the future. There will be probably something coming forward in the next agenda on the next regular
But
council.
what I would like to do is to maybe not have that segregated a little bit, is that let's just hold off, put the money into council contingency, and then that would be another vote coming back.
Well, either way, sir, it'll be another vote coming back. Mr. Johnson?
I just want to thank Christy. I know you come up here a lot before us, and I know the arts have been hit pretty hard with the funding and the economy, but you continue to do a good job, so I want to say thanks for your support.
And I think that I can speak for the rest of the council when we do appreciate everything that you've done and that your committee has done. You work hard, and we look forward to some projects that are going to be coming up that you'll be helping us with. And so please express our appreciation and thanks to everyone on your committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please cast your vote.
We need Skip Hall's vote.
There it is.
You're good. You're
Did
good.
that take?
No. Hold down.
They all keep blinking. Here, hold
Okay,
on.
thank you. Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Thank you.
Much.
Next item, number 17.
Yes.
Discussion, consideration, and action on resolution number 09-140, modifying the global intergovernmental agreement between the City of Surprise and the Dysart Unified School District 89.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm here to give an overview of the proposed changes to the Dysart School District IGA. The last time I was before you was approximately a year ago when this issue first arose. I'll go over briefly some of the history. IGAs in place. There are more than one IGA. What we are talking about tonight is the Schools as Community Centers IGA, which was adopted in 2004. Any modifications made today will have no impact on the other IGAs. They will remain in force. Joint use is the basis of all of these IGAs. Joint use is the sole reason that we have the IGA. The bottom line is it just makes sense for us to partner with other organizations, with the school district, to provide the benefits to the city, to the community, to our residents, to their students. Joint use is sharing the outdoor areas, sharing the school facilities, making sure that schools after hours are being used by the community to the extent possible, making sure that the city and the school district work together to make sure that our facilities and their facilities are designed with joint use in mind. Some of the requirements of the existing IGA are the city waives all permit and inspection fees. The city pays for water, sewer, and roads impact fees. All other impact fees the school district is exempt from due to state law. Waiver of all rental fees. Rental fees is a small portion of this. School improves, maintains the outdoor areas, and then there is also the annual approval and reconciliation of cost in a joint meeting of the council and board. Why are we updating this? We're updating this for four main reasons. Coordination issues with our programming, operational realities. A lot of the items that were in the IGA just never came to fruition. It just didn't work when we tried putting into operation. Organizational changes with the school district, and then also financial implications. This issue first arose with a request from the school district for a joint meeting with the council. Based on the fact that the school district was not clearly on the same page amongst themselves, the city council held a workshop and came to a conclusion of here's what our consensus is. I'll remind you of what that was in a second. The school board did not come up with their consensus and act as a whole body until May 13th, so 9 months after the city council acted and directed us to start working with the district. Last night the school board did have the IGA on their agenda for an executive session only. We have been informed that there were some changes that they would like. They have not told us what those changes were as they were in the IGA. We are still here today for action from the City Council because we do believe the IGA changes that are being presented to you are in the best interest of the city and the community. Overall council consensus was the philosophy of the IGA is the city recreates, the school district educates. Stick to what it is that you know best. We need a clear and precise definition of priority use. There was a problem with some third parties coming in and using facilities before the city had the opportunity to do it. Define hours of use control, kind of got to the same thing, just overall coordination issues. Annual, quarterly, and programming, a lot of this comes just to the point of communication between the two partners, and then the definition of the third parties. Who takes precedence, the city or an outside organization? I'll get into the IGA modifications. The first one is the actual removal of language of the educate versus recreate. Once we got into discussions, it was very hard to determine where that line was drawn. Every sport has an element of education, and that's what the school district was saying, was their programs were educational-based recreation. So rather than trying to go through and have that philosophical debate, we just figured really concentrating on priority use and the definition of the third parties gets us to the same location so that the city gets what we need out of this. And what we came to was a definition of sponsored versus non-sponsored. If it's a nonprofit organization that has a contract with the city or a contract with the school district, they are considered a sponsored activity. So when using district facilities, the school district comes first, the city comes second, district-sponsored activities come third, city-sponsored activities first. After that, anybody else would have the ability to use facilities and pay rental fee. City facilities basically change is city comes before district. Also in here we have modified some of the timelines for reporting and planning, clarified the contents of reports and plans, and we have removed the requirement for the annual joint meeting. This is one of those areas where how we actually operated was different. This called for a report to the council in a joint meeting of the council and board by October. Timing just didn't work with how we program and how the school district school year works. Other modifications, and these are the two biggest ones right here. We have removed the out-of-pocket schedule from the agreement, although that's not a major change because both the city and the district have out-of-pocket expense schedules that we will be utilizing. The big change here is the school district now wants to actually enforce the out-of-pocket provisions where we pay for the out-of-pocket cost associated with the use of their facilities. They pay for the out-of-pocket cost for us. This is an item that has been in the IGA since inception, but it has never been enforced. This is a very high dollar amount for the city of Surprise to pay to use it because we do use a lot of their facilities. This is where we get the benefit, is by not having to pay rental fees, not having to pay out-of-pocket cost. With the school district wanting to keep this item in there, we've suggested to match practice and just remove this. It makes us whole in the long run. With the school district wanting to keep this item in there and begin charging out-of-pocket costs, we have removed the waiver of development impact fees, where the city was paying development impact fees. By doing that, the paying of the out-of-pocket costs will, in the long run, be a win-win or even financial burden for both the city and the school district. Inclusion of the development impact fees and paying the out-of-pocket costs makes it so this agreement would not be financially sound for the city of Surprise. In conclusion, we do still, even though the school district has an executive session item and they do have some modifications that we are not aware of, we do recommend that the council still proceed because the IGA modifications before you are in the best interest of the city. With that, any questions?
Thank you, council. Any questions? Mr. Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Sandstrom. I appreciate it. Can you define, what's the difference between district versus district-sponsored activities?
The difference between district and district-sponsored is district is an activity that actually is ran by district employees or volunteers of the school district. District-sponsored would be a nonprofit organization that has a contract with the school district.
Okay, thank you. And just a quick statement. I think everybody up here wants to work collaboratively with the school district, but at the same time, we need to do what's best. We need to be stewards of the taxpayers, as Mayor said, to steal a line from the mayor tonight. So I think this is fair moving forward. I would wish that it hadn't come down to the changes that were made as far as removing and having to pay out-of-pocket fees. It works better. I've seen it done in other cities. It works. You have that collaborative team working together. But it is what it is, and I support it. And just understand that we support Surprise, but we support the schools too.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. This is an IGA, and in my opinion, it's a partnership agreement. And I've said this about other partnerships agreements, whether it be any other entity. We all appreciate education and Surprise and how important it is. But a partnership is a win-win. And like you said, in this last, I don't want to read it all, but in the last paragraph, I think you sum it up pretty good, that we've given extremely high amounts of waiving fees and cold hard cash for Valley Vista High School to the tune of about $3.5 million and the Willow Canyon track. My point is this, is over time, when development fees and stuff like that are charged, right now they're not building a lot of schools, so it's not in the benefit of the city financially right now. But we got to have long memories, because when we start to balance out the win-win of this partnership, it's going to come by us receiving those development fees back that we're saying we're going to start charging. So if we don't have long memories, because I know when it gets going again, the school board's going to come and say, isn't it important to the city that education? And we've got to have memories and say, you've been charging us usage of the facilities that we actually bought. So the win-win was that we're going to recoup that in charging development fees to you now. So I can see when it's 5 years, when development starts coming back, we start building schools, that argument might be brought from the school board to us, but we've got to be vigilant and say, we've been eating those costs for all these years. Now it's our turn to recoup some of our win-win relationship we have here. So I just want to point that out. And Doug, you've been I know that you've been working extremely hard at this, and I appreciate it. I know it's something that I've talked to you a lot about. And I appreciate your vigilance in it and your fairness, because we need to be fair. We need to be fair to our citizens, not just the school district. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want a clarification. What you're saying, Doug, is that it was all agreed to in principle?
The entire agreement was agreed to in principle, correct.
And then last night, the school board went into executive session with the superintendent, and then they made they want some changes now.
Up until Friday of last week, the item was going to be on the school board's agenda for action for them to adopt. Friday of last week, they did contact us and let us know that it was going to be e-session only with no action.
Okay. I saw an email today, maybe Mark can. Do you know about the email from Connie Ferguson?
From Connie Ferguson? No, I do not.
It went to one of Mark's people, and they canceled.
Okay.
Can you explain that?
Elemental baseball?
Yes.
It is one of the programs where the school district would use our fields, and they have canceled, or they have told us that they will not be using our facilities because of the out-of-pocket costs that we would be charging to the school district underneath the IGA. And get back to the point that it was our position all along that we do not charge out-of-pocket costs. The school district wanted out-of-pocket costs charged, and they did inform us today that one of the programs that they would normally offer in our facilities designed for Major League play for kids, they will not be utilizing.
Okay. All right. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Villanueva?
Yes, Joe answered part of my question, but on the long-term planning for the school district, what is there, do they see how many schools in the future or anything of that type?
For long-term, I'm not exactly sure on that. One thing that we did clarify with them is what their plans are in the next 12 to 18 months, and there are no plans for any school facilities in the next 12 to 18 months.
Okay, thank you.
Real quick, so they've elected not to pay our costs for using our facilities.
Correct.
But they'll probably use the ones that the city already paid for on their facilities, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so there you have it. But anyway, one other point, too, is that they all of a sudden are now renegotiating this thing or haven't come to agreement. Do you think it's over the waiver of the development fees?
I think it has to do with the development impact fees, and the administrators did mention something about the use of facility keys. And I explained to the council that one of the changes was in the old agreement, it stated that keys will be exchanged. In the new agreement at the district's request, we changed that to keys may be exchanged. So I don't know what the issue is on that one, but I do believe that the development impact fees is a big portion of it.
I just want the citizens to know that we've done everything, and we've been fair as a council and the city, and I think we've been more than fair and patient. Thank you.
Thank you, and I concur. I believe that the city has been consistent all along. We've had the same message. We've delivered it time after time, person after person, from up here, staff, throughout the organization. We continue to support education in Surprise, and we continue to support the Dysart School District, but we are very hopeful that we're going to find them to be cooperative in this IGA. So to be consistent with everything we've done in the past, Council, may I have an action?
Move to approve Resolution 09-140.
Second.
Motion and second. Please cast your vote.
Thank you.
You get it?
Yes, 7 yes vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And the next item is consideration and action on agreement with Greater Phoenix Economic Council, GPEC, for FY 2010 in an amount not to exceed $40,265 for national and international economic development marketing services.
Mayor, Council, good evening. I have just a short presentation to kind of get out for the public and for the council the basics of GPEC in our agreement. And I do have in the audience with me Barry Broom tonight and also Scarlett Spring, who are the two key executives for the organization. Steve Betts, who is our representative to the executive board, was going to try and make it, but he just got off a plane, and I said, well, I don't think that you're going to make it in time. So anyway, we're here to talk about the renewal of GPEC's marketing agreement with the city. And just to kind of remind everyone, the Greater Phoenix Economic Council is a public-private partnership made up of the 18 communities in the metropolitan area of Phoenix. It also has about 140 private businesses, major businesses in the region who are investors, as we are, in the partnership. And GPEC's purpose is really to promote the region and its competitive position and to bring quality jobs to the region. And of course, we do have two Surprise-appointed board members, which we had one, now we have two, including one on the executive board, which is Steve Betts. The other is Denise Resnick. And this is because our population changed, according to MAG's population estimates, to over 100,000, and that gave us this year another person on the board. GPEC, I'll just briefly kind of talk about what they're doing, and then if you have obviously other questions, then the two GPEC reps can kind of get into that. But GPEC is spending a lot of time right now expanding their prospecting activities into California and other markets. This is tied, at least in part, to solar, where there's a lot of activity and a lot of interest in Arizona. And of course, they have another initiative they've been pursuing here, and really started up to pursue foreign direct investment. And that is really starting to bear some fruit for us. And in fact, Surprise is actually being looked at by some foreign companies, so pretty exciting. Solar and healthcare, these have been the kind of key target industries that they focus on, but there are others that they also look at as well. And then I think something that kind of goes unnoticed by a lot of people is GPEC has been very instrumental in trying to deal with some of the gaps in the community. In other words, getting an inventory of industrial buildings as an example, working on technology parks and accelerators, and trying to solve the venture capital problem that Arizona has. In fiscal year 09, which is the year we just ended, they created about 1,300 jobs in the region. And over the past 5 years, there have been about 20,000 jobs. I think job creation is down this past year because the economy has been, well, we all know what the economy's done. And that's resulted in about $5.8 billion in capital investment. They generated 198 new prospects in fiscal year '09, and there have been 51 who are currently considering Surprise. I wish I could say that we had landed something in the previous fiscal year here, but we are on the short list for 3 projects right now that would significantly impact us, and one of them, at least, is a foreign company. So we're really coming up fast here with respect to our involvement with GPEC, and in fact, here in the next week or two, we have a company coming in here to take a look at us, and they've been in before, so very hopeful about that. You know, why is GPEC important to us? Well, I think the thing that we all recognize is they're a major source of economic development leads for the city, and I might say the quality of leads is exceptionally high. These tend to be the largest projects, largest capital investment, largest number of jobs. But even beyond that, they are responsible for advancing a positive regional image. It would be very difficult for Surprise to attract investment if the Phoenix metropolitan area were perceived to be a poor place to invest in general. And then I think increasingly for us as we grow in size, it's important for Surprise to have a seat, or 2 seats in this case, at the regional table, because more of the things that we do, like transportation and economic development, do involve other parties and having relationships with others in the region. So their current request is for $40,265. That actually is a reduction from what we would expect, because it's based on a per capita assessment based on the MAG population estimates. That represents a 5% reduction from that number. Current year funding, or last year's funding, was $40,878, so it's also a slight decline from the previous year. So with that, we certainly would entertain comments and questions, and again, GPEC reps are here to help me out.
As a matter of fact, I think Kim Davies, the assistant to the mayor and council, sent GPEC a notification that I'll be taking one of those trips to California in September. So I'm looking forward to that, and that partnership is a good one. It's very, very healthy. Let's see, Mr. Hawk.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few questions. One is, how long have we been with GPEC? How many years?
You know, I actually can't answer that. We've been with them at least 5 years that I know of, and maybe before that. But we started with them some time ago.
Okay, at least 5 years.
Yes.
And how many closed deals have we got?
In 2005 and 6, we closed a deal that they brought to us and worked with us with Milgard Manufacturing. They bought land, and then they have never built because of the residential meltdown. Basically, that's been the deal since I've been here.
So we got one.
There was no. I think that's it. Yeah.
And can you elaborate a little bit on the current activity? Who's looking at us right now? You don't have to name companies, obviously.
Yeah.
But what's going on?
Well, we're right in the middle of the solar activity. That is the key thing for us, for Arizona, and for Surprise in general. And it's because of the investments that have been made in business parks here in the Surprise area. And you know, you could get into a lot of discussion about this, but basically when those parks were created, it was kind of at the height of the real estate boom. And there was a lot of land bought at very high prices. Well, now that's all changed, and so there are some developers going through a lot of pain. Ironically for us, it's excellent because we now have the product, but the pricing is where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. So the problem that we've had at the state level, and Surprise has lost major deals where we were identified as the front leader in the state, and then it's gone to other states. We now, because of everybody's involvement with Senate Bill 1403, have a solar law that's on the books, an incentive program. And that has definitely helped because everybody was waiting for that. Now we're still waiting for the rules to be written at the administrative level, and nobody wants to invest till the rules get written because they're afraid their investment won't count. So we got this period, well, Commerce is writing the rules. But we have got people coming out here now that have been waiting and are here looking with their engineers and looking at sites and measuring sites and doing all the stuff that they would do before they actually close a deal. So we feel like we're really well positioned in a couple of solar deals right now. Now, again, there's competition on all of this stuff.
Do they have financing?
That's the other thing that's interesting, because the financial markets are just frozen. But what's neat about Arizona is because and other states have done this too, because the Corporation Commission is demanding that we have green energy, they're forcing the power companies to put in solar farms, in effect. So there's a customer there, which is the power company, and then now they're contracting with people to put in solar farms, and then the people we're talking to are the people who would make the mirrors or the photovoltaic panels. So the funding is being lined up, but there's a certain series of steps that have to take place. But everybody is kind of gearing up with the idea as soon as one domino falls in, they'll all fall. And that's what's going on. And that's kind of, in general, that's what's going on in industry. Everybody's getting their plans in order, waiting for the money to come. But solar is really hot because there's been a number of changes in credits. Commodity prices have come way down. Land prices have come way down. And now, because of regulatory action in the Southwest, there's a terrific market that's been created.
Okay, I need to ask Barry a question. Barry, what can, I read this article about GPEC with Mesa and ASU, the accelerator. What can you do for our tech accelerator right here?
Okay, well, first off, GPEC arranged for the funding for Catapult Bio. So I know you're in a relationship with Catapult Bio. The $15 million that went into Catapult Bio was a strategy put together by GPEC with Abraxas Bioscience. The president and CEO of Abraxas Bioscience is a gentleman named Dr. Patrick Soon-Schwang. And it was actually a company that located and was going to do a simple vaccine lab in Phoenix, bought an old empty pharmaceutical lab. And we built a strategy to bring the president and CEO in to the market, and did a joint venture with TGen, co-pitched the development of a biotech capital accelerator, source of money, which will be important to your infrastructure as you build this, and actually executed that. So I know you're in a relationship with Catapult Biotech, and that's an asset that was provided by GPEC.
I see.
And of course, concurrently, Scarlet Springs background, my senior executive vice president, she's a former national sales manager from AstraZeneca in the oncology division. And I spent 6 years in Michigan developing the biotech and life science corridor. In fact, I know the city manager might be a little bit familiar with it because we did an exchange with Peoria Next a few years back in helping them develop their technology strategy around Bradley. So I think, from a transactional standpoint, I think Catapult's going to help. I think probably one of the things that we need to do with GPEC is I'd like to be able to deliver. We need to deliver a private healthcare asset into Surprise to really help you make that go. I mean, we need a 200, 300, 400, 500 physician outfit doing some research, patient, clinical work, which I think is doable, probably not super soon, but doable within 2 to 3 years, in my opinion. And that would be, so my simple objectives, I did a lot of the design work with John and Janine early on it, so a lot of your conceptual strategic work I had done for, came out here pretty regularly for a couple of years to develop that. Catapult Bio, a $15 million resource, is here. And then, of course, I think the next steps, we need to deliver a healthcare provider and generator. May not necessarily be a hospital per se, but some type of healthcare institution out here that can give critical mass to the market and help you. We've worked quite a bit trying to take advantage of the Alzheimer's research and the brain bank. And I think that's really compelling research, but the volume of it isn't quite large enough yet for us to get an impact. So my guess is, which is part of our healthcare strategy, Councilman, is targeting private healthcare companies in places like Nashville and Minneapolis that do specialty healthcare services, like we did Cancer Treatment Centers of America, and bring those assets to the West Valley. West Valley is about 50% underserved on the healthcare market. And even though, we have partnerships with Banner and these other healthcare assets, I don't think they can expand from a capital standpoint or from a management standpoint fast enough to meet our needs. And I'm not sure it'd be that efficient for us to kind of create a healthcare monopoly. So we're interested in competition, bringing healthcare costs in line, and then we're interested in obviously meeting that need more quickly. And I'm optimistic that within the next 2 years we'll be more successful with that. We've built a new selling strategy because a lot of the selling strategies in a growth market are kind of big tent selling strategies, broad-based marketing strategies, and then you can get your hands on opportunities and then you glean that. Well, this is spade and shovel stuff now. So we've actually built a call center at GPEC, and we just hammer away it's been very effective for us into these healthcare markets, looking at assets that might need to be in the Southwest. So I think the healthcare industry is going to be an export industry, meaning like cancer treatment centers, people come here to get treatment, whereas traditional healthcare is you build the healthcare capabilities for the people that live there. I think we're going to have a combination of healthcare opportunities like that, and I think that will bode well for Surprise in the future.
Just as a point of information, we have underutilized our relationship with GPEC, and we're currently in the process of working with Janine to come up with a strategy where you will be receiving regular reports from GPEC or from our representatives at GPEC, and they will be aware of what's going on in our community. They will be receiving the presentation on the Techcelerator, and then they will utilize their network of contacts to help us in that process. That's all going to be happening, and we'll keep you informed as we go along. Mr. Alton.
Mr. Brew.
All right, sir.
Nice seeing you again.
Nice to see you.
For 5 years and beyond, we've had a relationship, and we probably have paid you folks about $200,000 over that time frame. Mm-hmm. How many referrals have you given us?
Right now you have 51 that are active. You've got 3 projects that you're shortlisted on. I mean, it would be hard to, I'd have to go back and give you the exact number, but on a given year, you've over that 5-year period, you probably have had, I would say on average, about 1,000 looks per se, which is a pretty significant, I think lift for that investment.
Now, as you're giving us this referrals, you're giving other communities referrals as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you ever give the same referral to other cities? I mean, to give your client an optimum value, and that is, you can go here, you can go here, and this is what this city has to offer in this city. Mm-hmm. Do you do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So of the referrals that you give us, you're giving other cities referrals as well.
Sure, and that's
same referrals.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
And so, what do you attribute it to that we can't land a deal? I mean, is it us? I know in the last year and a half, I know that the economy has taken a hit on prospects, and I've gone out. I've met your folks as they drive clients here to Surprise, and we go out to the dirt site and we kick the dirt around a little bit and talk. And
we had dinner together with a client not too long ago.
And we had dinner together with a client. Thank you for picking that up. But what I'm saying is I've seen you guys in action. You do a very good job. But where are we dropping the ball?
I've been thinking a lot about how to handle the market changes so much recently. It's been so volatile. And I really felt like, it's really crucial. There's a lot of, everyone has a different point of view of GPEC. I start every Monday with coffee with Phil Gordon, and I break out my notepad and I get my instruction. There's people that think I haven't talked to Phil Gordon in 3 months, but there's people that think I talk to him 15 times a week. There's people that think we get instructions from Michael Crow. That's true, though. I'm joking. He tries to give us instructions. And there's all kinds of people that think we favor the East Valley or we're favoring this community over the other. And I can assure you that it wouldn't, to do any of those things would be terribly harmful to our reputation. In fact, the CEOs are really agnostic about where industry goes. They just want it in the region. In fact, if we refer a company that we can't cite to Tucson and it's located, all the bankers that have banks, the Wells and the Chase that put investments in GPEC, they got banks in Tucson, and they consider that a win, even though they know what our material interest is. And right before this market started to curl back, I really felt like Goodyear and Surprise in particular, these two communities were going to start to really take off. And communities mature at different levels. Communities have made different strategies. Peoria is a fantastic community, but the new mayor there is trying to shift their philosophy. They decided 15 years ago they wanted to be a bedroom community. So they built themselves out like a bedroom community, and now he's trying to change that, and that's going to take some time. But both Goodyear and Surprise, I thought, had really good balanced approaches. And we actually have had a few pretty big successes in Goodyear, and I thought, really felt like Surprise was next. I really, really did. And we just had this market fall out from under us. Now, one of the companies that you and I have met together has been back here now and is coming back again. And it's always a good sign when someone comes back 4 times and brings their engineering team. So I'm hoping beyond hope. And I think this company is going to be a major employer. These companies might start off with a couple hundred jobs, but I think this will be a 1,500, 2,000 job employer over 5 to 8 years. So I'm really optimistic on this solar and renewable piece that Surprise has done a great job positioning itself for that. And I think we'll be close to that. But I don't think you've been dropping the ball. I just think it's a maturation process. When we were really hot, we had to explain I-10's traffic out here. When I-10's traffic lightened up, we just didn't have the intensity in the market to get the investment going.
Yeah,
but
and
I think it's close.
I agree with you. We're maturing into that place where we become an attractive destination for employers. And just as we were getting to that point, the market did drop out from under us. And so there probably at this point is no blame to be assigned, but a lot of work to keep doing to make sure that we continue to be at that place that becomes attractive to those employers. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'm not going to ask you why, because I think that's an unfair question to you, Barry. I think you telling us you're getting us on those short lists is what your job is to do. Our job as a city is to finish and close the deal. Okay? So I think that question was a little bit unfair to you. I've sat up here for 5 years and heard we're on short lists, we're on short lists, we're on short lists. And early on in the 5 years ago, we were in good economic times. So we've discussed this, Council, on some issues that we have. You're giving us the short list. We're just not closing it. I mean, I've said this before, and I think other council members have too. Economic development, it's selling your strengths and downplaying your weaknesses. Let's face it. Okay, so it hasn't produced much, and to blame you when you're providing the services and the leads and stuff like that, I think it's unfair for us to get up here and say you're not doing your job and why aren't we closing things. That's not your issue. So I think this council has to look at that and start really doing some real factual, these are the facts and this is the reason. So that's my comment.
Thank you. And let me remind council that the agenda item is to be voting on the contract with GPEC. And so let's, as much as possible, keep to that subject. Mr. Villanueva.
Yes. You mentioned how long we've been with GPEC. I can remember when our fee was like $4,000. Maybe at that time we shouldn't have even been a member because we weren't really ready. We didn't have transportation, we didn't have workforce, and we didn't have the amenities and things that businesses are looking for. But we've come a long ways, as was mentioned. And at this time it would be a mistake to not keep going with GPEC.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. How you doing?
Good.
Just a quick question, and we're on the short list for 3 things, and I read through the package here, and Exhibit C has all our list of different priorities for each city, and for Surprise, certainly environmental technology, and we talked about solar. What's, just as a point of clarification, what's GPEC's role as far as legislation? Because now I'm assuming on a short list, we're certainly competing with other states, maybe other nations on this kind of project. So what's your role as far as working with state legislators and crafting legislation that would make us more competitive?
Well, that's what we did with 1403, but quite candidly, that's the first time in 5 years that I'd ever been involved in legislation. I think what our goal should be, what we would love to have happen, is to have policymakers, thinking more. The one thing that I will say to people will say things to me about our legislature, and sometimes it's not flattering. And the one thing I always say back, and I really mean this, is I said I wish you could work with our mayors and councils and city managers, because really throughout the valley, I'm never in front of a council that isn't totally focused on what they ought to be doing on a regular basis to make their community better. And that's all 18 communities here. Our legislators need to take that. And then, Councilman, what we could be doing is feeding them competitiveness information and helping them make decisions about policies. What we did with 1403 is we actually wrote the bill and lobbied. And, of course, that's not our true function, and it was dicey and complicated. And I think your government affairs guy probably bailed me out twice and cleaned up after me once. So it wasn't our main, my main business. But what that bill did is it puts us in the top 5 economically in competitiveness in the industry. And so, Arizona's never going to be one. I don't know why, but I don't think that's going to happen. But with so many other natural advantages, if we can be competitive, that would be wonderful. What we're recommending now, and we've met with Senator Burns and Speaker Adams, there is no Department of Commerce. It's been eradicated through cuts. There's an excellent director there named Don Carden with no resources. And one of the things that we've suggested to the policymakers is we would recommend that they allow GPEC to organize private sector leaders and really clean up the state economic development programs and restructure them so that they're viable to support City Manager Oliver and John Hagan and the mayor and council here in your competitive position. Get rid of the things that don't work and build some programs that help you. And if you build state economic development programs the right way, everybody benefits. The one thing that I really like about 1403 is, the tax impact on the program is positive. And you know how many solar companies have come through Arizona and kicked the tires and left. So, we had some work to do. So we were pivotal in 1403. But and I wanted to remind that I had one question from the governor's office. Do you know what that was, Mayor?
How much longer are you going to speak?
No, that was close. They asked me what is the mayor of Surprise's position, and we actually called you on that, if you remember, Mayor. So it takes everybody in the boat working together to make things go. And even the one question the governor asked us was, what was the mayor of Surprise's position on this solar bill? It's the truth, and so
now we're going to find out. We have a motion before us.
Okay.
And,
so
we don't
anyway,
have a motion on this item.
I guess that's it, Councilman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
2010 agreement with Greater Phoenix Economic Council in the amount not to exceed $40,265.
Second.
All in favor, please vote. New system. Skip, you get to vote twice.
Since that was
I'm holding it down.
You're good.
Did you get it, Jerry?
No, not yet. Please try again. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Consideration and action on the final reading of ordinance number 09-29, an ordinance approving a planned area development amendment for Sun City Grand.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm bringing before you a major PAD amendment for the Sun City Grand, particularly the western corner of Reams Road in Mountain View. And with permission, I'd like to combine item number 20, a final plat for the same property.
Do.
As I said, this is located on the western corner of Reams Road and Mountain View Boulevard, just behind the Albertson Safeway south of Grand Avenue. And I'd like to preface this to say that these properties, we've had numerous people come into these properties before, and because of the difficulties with these properties, a lot of people have walked away. And tonight, with the actions that we're trying to do, is to make this a more marketable property. This involves two PADs. The first is the Park Place PAD, and the Sun City Grand PAD. And the two properties are two triangular-shaped properties on that corner. And the problems are that there are two separate PADs, two separate final plats, two different underlying zoning classifications. And that is what we're going to clean tonight. Now, there is also concurrently with this a minor PAD amendment, and it is minor because it is not changing the underlying zoning, and that is to remove that section from the Park Place PAD. And tonight, the major PAD amendment will actually bring that into the Sun City Grand PAD. And then the final plat amendment tonight is also to combine those two properties. Just a little deeper into the major PAD amendment, we have commercial up to the north and the single-family residential over to the west in the Sun City Grand PAD. What this, the one item this will do is change that portion to commercial. This will also add the parcel from the Park Place PAD, and remember that did have the commercial designation underlined, and it will combine those two parcels. And that concludes my presentation, barring any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Questions, Council? Okay, then we'll take item number 19. May I have an action?
Move to approve ordinance 09-29.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This item does require a call to the public. I hereby open this to the public. If anybody would like to speak on this agenda item, please step forward. Seeing no one, I close the call to the public. Any further comments? Please cast your vote.
Me? Yeah.
There we are. Thank you very much.
Weird.
This thing is screwed up.
Thank you. We'll go
Unanimous
to
vote.
item number 20. May I have a motion?
Move to approve resolution 09-133.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This item as well calls for a call to the public. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak, I hereby open the call. Seeing no one, I close the call to the public. Any further comments? None. Please cast your vote.
Thank you. Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 21.
Consideration and action on ordinance number 09-25, amending Article 5 of Section 34 of the Surprise City Code, offenses and miscellaneous provisions.
Mayor Turk, members of City Council, good evening. For your consideration this evening is a simple ordinance amendment that prohibit skateboarding and rollerblading in inappropriate areas that are city-owned properties. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions, Council? Hearing none, please.
I move to approve ordinance 09-25.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. This item requires a call to the public. I hereby open to the public. If anybody would like to speak, please step forward now. Seeing no one, I close the call to the public and ask you to cast your vote.
One at a time.
This time we need John Williams. Thank you. Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
And number 22, Rio Salado College, the lead institution of the Community University in Surprise West Meck. And the City of Surprise wanted to partner to offer increased educational opportunities in the West Valley through the construction by West Meck of a building to provide a fab lab and wet lab space on city property for use by the various parties.
Thank you. And before City Manager, I think, is the presenter, before he starts, I'd like to acknowledge that in the audience is Dr. Todd Aukus from Rio Salado Community College, the Communiversity, and want to further acknowledge that it was Dr. Aukus who introduced the City of Surprise to West Meck. While we knew them, we didn't know that a relationship potentially that could be very, very beneficial to our community was possible. I want to thank you for that. Appreciate your efforts. You're a great partner, and we look forward to a superb future. Mr. Oliver.
Yes. What this agenda item does is simply authorizes us to negotiate with our partners as it relates to leasing approximately 2.95 acres of space for a fab lab and a wet lab. The vision is that during the day that lab space would be used by Westmac for students of theirs, that during the evening, perhaps on weekends, that it would be used for Rio as the need arose. This would be both a fab lab and a wet lab. A fab lab is a very sophisticated computer program and more sophisticated than a lathe, but you can essentially make any part you want. There are 9 of these particular devices right now in the United States. It was developed by MIT. MIT would be the one to install it. It would be the only one in this area. I believe there's one over on the west coast of California. And there's been some interest in some people wanting to see that. Then, in addition to that, this could be used to support the Innovation Center at the former City Hall as that need arose for people that were doing research there, depending upon this agreement. What we would envision is an agreement that it would be a nominal lease of the space for $1 a year. Obviously, it would be the building would need to be aesthetically in keeping with the rest of the structures on this site, and that we would have approval of those designs. But what this does is authorize us to go forward and formally negotiate this agreement, go to our respective bodies, and move forward with this partnership. And we wholeheartedly recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
I want to extend my thanks, too. We really appreciate it. There's if you read through this, it says that this is the first one in the state of Arizona, and there are only 9 other states that have this type of lab. So definitely something that's unique to Surprise, and it sets us apart, and I think this is great. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick comment. Again, thank you, Dr. Aukus, City Manager Randy Albert, and Mayor Truitt. When we talk about economic development, this is going to create a lot of synergy right here with the community, with our public and private secondary institutions, and this is going to put us on the map. And there's going to be a groundswell from this. This is a big deal for our city.
Thank you, and let me point out it's a big deal. It comes at a very low cost, so that's even better. Council, may I have an action?
Yes, I move to authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations for a partnership between Rio Salado College, Westmac, and the City of Surprise for the use of approximately 3 acres of land on city property.
We have a motion and a second. This item does require a call to the public. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak, please step forward. I open this to the public. Seeing no one, I close the call to the public and ask for you to cast your vote.
Thank you. Unanimous vote, Mayor.
Very much. Let's see, we've got item number 23.
Consideration and action on items to be placed on future agendas.
Any items you're thinking of? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 24. I believe that the City Attorney does need to speak to us in executive session. And City Attorney, when we return, we will not be taking any action other than to close the meeting?
That is correct.
Okay, so no action will be taken when we return, only to close the meeting.
We need a motion second, Mayor.
Motion to adjourn to executive session? All in favor say yes? Yes.
Yes.
I don't know where to start with this. It's a 26 star, which I don't think I've ever seen a 26